Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge House. Right now we'll be looking into today's The Hindu newspaper, that is of date 9th of August 2018. So while analyzing today's newspaper, we'll be looking only into articles that are important from a competitive exams and UPSC civil service exam perspective. So I welcome you all to this video. Let's start. So the first article we are going to analyze is regarding the adultery law, which is something punishable under section 497 of the IPC. And this particular section was widely alleged to be non-gender neutral because only the man gets punished and the woman is not punished. And also, since it is against the article 14, that is right to equality is not maintained here, the constitutional validity of this particular section was under question. So Supreme Court right now has made a comment that is Chief Justice has made a comment that jail term for adultery does not make sense. So sending a person to prison for 5 years for adultery does not appeal to the common sense. That's what Chief Justice has observed. So first, an adulterous relationship is carried on with the consent of a woman. If a third party attacks or molests his wife of another or wife of another, it amounts to rape. Rape is an offense. But if a relationship is carried with the consent of a woman, how does it amount to an offense? If there is a consent between the two adults, why punish the wife's lover? That's what the whole thing is what Chief Justice has asked. So in a submission, the Additional Solicitor General Pinky Anand made a comment that adultery should remain in the Indian Penal Code as it ensures the sanctity of a marriage. But in a reply, Chief Justice made a comment that protecting marriage is the responsibility of the couple involved, and if one of them fails, there is a civil remedy, that is divorce. Where is the question of public good in a broken marriage? That's what Chief Justice has asked. Anyway, let's see what kind of verdict is going to come with respect to this particular case. Moving on to the next one, it is regarding the NMCG and CGF, that is National Mission for Clean Ganga and the Clean Ganga Fund. So, in a bid to make it easier for the public to participate in the efforts, the National Mission for Clean Ganga is talking to the SBI to make it possible to donate to the Clean Ganga Fund from ATMs. So while NMCG is an affiliate of the Union Water Resources Ministry, it is executing the government's 20,000 crore commitment to Clean Ganga. The CGF is a separate corpus fund made up of donations from corporates and individuals. At present, there is a 250 crore rupees in its kitty, and it is managed by NMCG. So as of now, 90% of the CGF comes from the state and central government public sector units, according to the information from Lok Sabha. So we should also keep in mind that the Ganga is a river that has been given a legal entity status along with Yamuna. So right now there is a huge mission to clean this particular thing. So despite having a divine character, because it has mentioned in the various kinds of religious texts, and it is also considered to be a sacred river. Despite having all these things, that is, it is also considered divine, and also it has a legal status. So despite having both these status, the plight of the river is very disappointing. So anyway, let's see how things are going to evolve. That's all about that particular article. Moving on to the next one. The Supreme Court constitutes panel to look into the issues plaguing the jail in the country. So the court resents AG's remark on funding curbs. So Justice Madan B. Lokur and Attorney General K.K. Venugopal sparred on whether the Supreme Court order on PIL pleas such as those on the better facilities for under trial prisoners amounted to unreasonable expenditure on the public exchequer. So the court was examining ways to end the overcrowding of prisons and condition of under trial prisoners languishing in jails. It also want to set up a committee to look into the conditions of the prison. So the government is not using its fund properly. That's what Chief Justice observed. Over 30,000 crore rupees were collected for benefit of the building and construction workers, but the money was spent on buying washing machines and various other things. So the government is not using the funds properly, that the funds that are lying with it properly. That's what Justice Madan V. Lokur observed. So the court said it could not abandon its duty to protect the citizens' fundamental right to life and dignity. Justice Lokur said the court and the government were not adversaries. So that's all about this particular article. Moving on to the next one. Why is carrying food to theatres a threat? So this is a case between the Maharashtra government and case in which Maharashtra government and the multiplex owners are involved. So the Bombay High Court on Wednesday asked the Maharashtra government to explain how permitting people to carry food from outside to the multiplexes could pose a security threat. So the state government had filed an affidavit in the High Court on Tuesday saying that it does not seem it necessary to interfere in the ban on outside food in multiplexes as it may create chaos or security issues. So the bench, however, noted that people are not prohibited from carrying food from home or from any other place to the public spot. It observed that the state's affidavit said that there was no specific law or statutory provision that restrained people from carrying outside food to cinema halls. So if people are permitted to carry home food inside aircraft, then why not theaters? That's what bench has observed. Anyway, let's see how what kind of verdict is going to come in this particular case. Moving on to the next one, it is a foreign or international relations related news. So Gokhale, that is our foreign secretary Vijay Gokhale in US, ahead of 2+2 talks. So this 2+2 refers to the trade and defense kind of talk that is likely to be that is scheduled in September. So Foreign Secretary Vijay arrived in American capital on Wednesday for talks with senior officials ahead of the first US India 2+2 dialogue in Delhi, September. Secretary of the State Mike Pompeo, Defense Secretary James Mattis were scheduled to travel to India for 2+2 dialogue, along with their counterparts, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and Defense Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. So India has been granted the strategic trade authorization, that is STA1 status, that placed it with a group of 36 countries, mostly NATO allies. Japan, South Korea are the only Asian countries in this group. So the status allows for the sale of more sensitive technologies to India than that was earlier permitted. So Indian Navy also participated in the rim of multinational naval exercise last week. So all these are the positive kind of things that have happened recently with respect to India-US relationship. But the trade negotiations between the two countries remain the Achilles heel for bilateral ties. The mid-July talks between India and the US on the outstanding trade dispute did not produce any expected results. So India has offered to amend its price control regime for the medical equipment in return for America retaining India's generalized system of preferences status in trade. So another official said both countries are in a position to manage trade disputes, and the Trump administration is cognizant of reducing the gap between the countries thanks to the increased in energy and civilian aircraft purchases by India. Anyway, let's see how things are going to develop. So moving on to another international related news, the tussle between the US and Iran. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said on Wednesday that it was hard to imagine new talks with the US after it lost the trust of the world with its erratic decision making. So yesterday we observed the news that Hassan Rouhani has said about the recent sanctions that were put forth. So he made a comment that when sanctions are in place, there is no chance for further negotiation. That is further, like revamping the whole New Deal. Anyway, this will have wide-reaching ramifications, especially for India and various other parts of the world. So that's all about this particular news. Moving on to the next one, it is economy related and strengthen the public sector boards. That's what IMF has told the government. Steps needed to enhance the efficiency of bank operations and foster more disciplined lending. So India needs to improve the way state-owned banks are run by strengthening the board level autonomy. That's what IMF said in its report, adding that the government should consider eventually privatizing them. So the key reform before privatizing should be strengthening the board. So, however, more can be done to sustain the recent foreign direct investment inflows and remove trade barriers. And that was another comment made in the same report by the IMF. These include reduction in the trade documentation requirement and procedure, lowering of tariff, continuing to improve the business climate and improving governance. So documentation is very much considered as a problem in India, and other suggestions are lowering tariff and continuing to improve the business climate and improving governance. So IMF also made some comment regarding the inflation trend and also the kind of policy that was adopted by RBI. RBI raised the repo rate for the second straight basis meeting last week by 25 basis points to 6.5 while warning about the inflationary pressures. So, average inflation is likely to rise to 5.2 in 2018-19 from a 17-year low of 3.6% in the previous fiscal year. That's what IMF has said. And the domestic risk include tax revenue shortfalls and various delays in addressing the twin balance sheet problems. That's what all that IMF has observed regarding the Indian economy or financial setup. And now we are moving on to the news regarding the China-US tussle, especially with regards to the trade tariff and all that. So China's exports surged more than expected in July, despite the US duties, as its closely watched surplus with the US remained near record high, as the world's two major economic powers ramp up a bitter dispute that some fear could derail the global growth. So right now, the main allegation that was made by Donald Trump while imposing tariff on the Chinese imports was they were a bit unfair when it comes to trade, trade conditions and all that. And also China was also alleged to have taken leverage of some technology related patented products were also allegedly used by China by unfair means. So, in response to both these actions, Trump imposed some trade tariff on China with an intention to reduce its import in US. But right now, the report says that China's exports or Chinese import in the US have not declined despite all these efforts made by Trump. So, in a statement, China's Commerce Ministry criticized the US move as being unreasonable, saying it had no choice but to adopt the same measure on an equal amount of American goods ranging from oil and steel products and autos and medical equipment. And of the more direct consequence in the US Sino trade war, China surplus with the US shrank only marginally, while Washington was at the receiving end. Those demands could get even more strident if the yuan's sharp drop in the recent month raises the ire of the US, which has in the past repeatedly criticized Beijing for manipulating its currency to gain unfair advantage. Economists also say that China appears to be taking a more hands-off approach to the yuan, which marked its worst 4-month fall on record. So the partially the reason for export acceleration can be attributed to drop in the yuan against the dollar. So it gets balanced. Even if tariffs are imposed, the cost will get high, but this cost high the higher cost gets balanced by reduction in the yuan price. So that's all important about this particular article. Moving on to the next one, it is regarding Competition Commission of India that approved the Walmart Flipkart deal. So the Competition Commission on Wednesday said it had approved the US retail giant Walmart's proposed acquisition of Flipkart. So deals beyond a certain threshold are required to get clearance from Competition Commission. This regulator keeps a tab on unfair practices in the marketplace. So let's look into some background information regarding Competition Commission of India. So this is a statutory body of the Government of India responsible for enforcing the Competition Act of 2002 throughout India. Please note, it is throughout India, and to prevent the activities that have an appreciable adverse effect on the competition in India. And it was established in 2003 and it became fully functional in 2009 with Dharendra Kumar as its first chairman. And combat refers to Competition Appellate Tribunal, and this was set up by the center in 2009 under the Competition Act of 2002. The same thing that is mentioned here. It hears an appeal from the decision of the CCI. So combat can have one chairperson and a maximum of 2 other members, all of whom can serve for 5 years. They are all eligible for reappointment unless they reach the age of 68. Please note, everywhere it is 65, but here it is 68. In case of chairperson and 65 in the case of members. So only a former Supreme Court judge or a Chief Justice of the High Court can be appointed as a chairperson of combat. And there is another news regarding, like SEBI has ordered a forensic audit of a private company. So I think we should go into what exactly is this forensic audit. So forensic audit is an examination and evaluation of the firm's or individual's financial information for use as an evidence in court. A forensic audit can be conducted in order to prosecute a party for fraud, embezzlement, that is, amassing wealth, or any other financial claims. In addition, an audit may be conducted to determine the negligence or even to determine how much spousal or child support an individual will have to pay. So that's all important about that particular news. And definitely we came across a clause here, that is a certain deal above, that is deals beyond a certain threshold are required to get clearance from competition commission. So we now have a background information regarding competition commission here, and let's see the what exactly is that threshold limit. So any acquisition, merger or amalgamation that meets the following jurisdictional threshold. This is exactly taken from the notification that was issued by the CCI some years back, and it came in 2018. That's what the last time when these thresholds were revised. So these words are exactly taken from that particular document. So threshold related to assets and turnover of the parties to combination, that is target enterprise and the acquirer, and these are the limits that are mentioned. So enterprise level, it is 2000 crore, and for worldwide, with India component, the US billion, the 1 billion US dollar with at least at least 1000 crore in India. So in terms of asset, it is mentioned like that, but in case of turnover, it is mentioned 6000 crore, and with 3 billion US dollar, at least 3000 crore in India. And I think we can make a comparison like here. Here it is 2000, here it is 6000, and it is 1 billion, here it is 3 billion. Both are in asset and turnover terms, and this is enterprise level. And now we are going to group level. So in it is there is only a slight difference here. It is 8000, here it is 24000, while USD with a while the worldwide component is there, it is 4 billion US dollar with 1000 component 1000 crore in India, while the other place it is 12 billion with at least 3000 crore in India. Anyway, these are not so important, I just mentioned it uh, because the obvious question may come, what exactly is that threshold. So that's all important about today's newspaper. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and do share it with your friends. And you can follow us on Telegram, and you can log on to our blog for various kinds of PDF, and our blog address is www.knowledgehouse.co. And please do subscribe our channel so that you won't miss any updates from us, because we will be coming up with more interesting and compelling videos. So please subscribe our channel. So that's all important about today. Have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching once again.